Hello, 99% watch without a subscription. Please subscribe. The morning of Spider-Man begins not with orange juice, but with listening to threats from J. Jonah Jameson from a huge screen in the center of New York. Spider-Man studied at school, and that's where he was going now. Before studying, he needs to buy a pie for Aunt May and also save a policeman who lost control. It turned out that the accident was rigged by a villain named Tripster. Since Peter became Spider-Man, he has already fought with this tube of glue 3 times, but not once could not defeat him. On the 4th attempt, he couldn't screw up. That's how it happened. Spider-Man plugged web glue guns Tripster, and they exploded and all the glue poured on the villain. Spider-Man was about to leave, but noticed that the glue man's eyes widened significantly with horror, and the spider's instinct did not work. The spider's sense is like an early warning system about danger. It turned out that everything was fine with the instinct, and the villain's eyes widened due to the fact that the S.H.I.E.L.D. spaceship descended right over the city. Nick Fury came down to the ground to Spider-Man, who called him to talk to the superhero about the fact that after his battles with the villains, there is a huge damage to the city. Nick said that even Iron Man was a beginner and was in exactly the same situation. Nick offered Spider to become his disciple in order to make Peter a real hero who benefits. Peter refused and went to school. On his way to school, he was spotted by Mr. Osborn's camera. He had been watching the Spider for a long time and wanted to get his abilities and recreate the army of Spider warriors. Arriving at school, Peter met his closest friend Mary Jane. Mary has long dreamed of working in the company of J. Jonah Jameson since Jameson was one of the most popular journalists at that time. In the hallway, May and Peter noticed Harry Osborn. A few years ago, Harry helped Peter, and from that moment they became best friends. But not everyone at this school loved the Spider. Flash had locked Peter in a locker since elementary school and humiliated him until high school. But at the moment nothing has changed. Peter was back in the locker with the door closed. After a while, May, Peter, and Harry had lunch in the dining room and discussed the situation that happened in the morning with Harry. Suddenly, the Spider's instinct began to get stronger and stronger, and after a while 4 villains broke into the school. During the fight in the morning, Tripster stuck a bug on Spider-Man's suit that calculated the Spider deposit. Peter was able to distract the villains and quickly change into a costume. During his fight with the villains, Harry was badly wounded. Harry's father, who was watching everything that was happening through the cameras, since he sent the villains to the school to find out what the Spider was capable of, he immediately came for Harry. Peter blamed himself very much for everything that happened with Harry and the school. When he got home, he remembered that he had not bought Uncle Ben's favorite pie. Today was his birthday, but unfortunately Peter and his aunt were celebrating alone. Uncle Ben is dead. Sitting in his room, Peter realized that Nick was right and the Spider still had to learn and learn. He made the decision to become Fury's apprentice. The Spider has already climbed onto the ship, but he was not very warmly welcomed. The security system thought that there was an outsider on the ship and began firing at Spider-Man from all sides. But fortunately, Fury came to the rescue very timely and did not let Spider-Man die. The very next morning, the Spider began training. Not only Nick looked after him, but also some of his students. They argued that a human could not defeat robots, and Peter could not. Since Harry didn't go to school, Peter brought him his notes and homework so that Harry could catch up. Mr. Osborn offered Peter a ride to school and they left. Mary met Parker at school. She put up ads all over the school that were addressed to Spider-Man. Mary wanted to interview him and tell his real story. The Spider came back to practice in the S.H.I.E.L.D. This time, he was provided with the latest development, or to be more precise, a bike that was designed specifically for him. During his testing, Spider-Man fell off the ship. The web ended and he couldn't stop. Nick Fury helped the Spider land, but since Parker didn't even have a license, he just drove around New York at high speed, unable to stop the bike. If Nick's students hadn't helped him, it wouldn't have ended well. Nick suggested that Parker take control of the heroes who were still young and not experienced, but Peter refused. He was afraid that he would have to answer for everything that happened to him. Fury could not convince the Spider and he left the training. Peter sat and thought about whether he had done the right thing or not, but the Spider's instinct distracted him from his thoughts. The Spider tried to understand where the danger was coming from, but did not have time. From the building, he was attacked by villains who recently attacked the school. They made it so that the Spider couldn't move. They needed this in order to deliver it to the customer without any problems. But superheroes came to Peter's aid, which he recently refused. Together, they were able to defeat the villains and save people. J. Jonah Jameson was again dissatisfied with Spider-Man, but Norman was even more dissatisfied with him, to whom the spider was never delivered. He told Otto Octavius that he would not tolerate another disappointment. Spider-Man changed his mind and took on the young heroes, but with one condition. He wanted to act not only as a team, but also alone, and Nick agreed. And the next day at school he was in for a surprise. The whole team of heroes moved to his school because the S.H.I.E.L.D. decided that they needed a break from training. Peter didn't like it very much, but Nick wanted to keep an eye on him, and so he resigned himself and continued to live on. The guys have already settled into school so much that they even started communicating with Peter's friends. Spider didn't like it at all. He had a fight with Sam because he sat down at the table where Mary, Harry, and Peter usually dined. The headmaster of the school was a hidden agent of Sheeta, and as soon as he saw that they were quarreling, he called them to the detector. But in fact, he called them and the rest of the team in order to send them via an underground path to the spaceship. The task that day was to defeat robots with lasers. Sam and Spider bet that one of them would be the first to defeat 10 robots, but they had a draw. A little later they found out that the task was not to defeat the robots, but simply to pass them unnoticed. As punishment, Nick Fury forced the entire team to clean up all the garbage they left behind. In order to regain Nick's trust, they decided to catch some villain from the S.H.I.E.L.D. list. Their choice fell on the most powerful and elusive villain. Spider-Man hesitated at first, but then decided that they would go to catch him. The team was already flying up to the island where the villain was and noticed strange flashes in the sky. It turned out that he was being chased by a huge number of missiles and robots. The team started attacking but realized that Dr. Doom was too strong. They wanted to perform a maneuver, but Spider-Man and Nova beat them and together whitewashed the Duma. After loading into the ship, they went to the S.H.I.E.L.D. ship. As soon as they got there, he immediately went to Nick to show his booty. But Nick was not happy about this news at all. He informed the superheroes that they had dragged an armed supervillain onto the ship who only pretended that they had defeated him. Dr. Doom divided into 6 such supervillains and the battle began. The bots dispersed throughout the ship and the team of heroes had to disperse. During the battle, one of the bots blew up the engine and the ship began to descend towards the city. Spider had an idea. He asked Sam to hold the ship from below as he was the only one in the team who could fly, and the rest of the team got into the hull with the reactor because Dr. Doom was there. Superheroes should not have allowed Doom to break the reactor, and therefore, after jumping through several floors, they got into the hull with the reactor. Doom had already sent a stream of energy into the reactor, but Sam was able to close it and take the blow on himself. The rest of the heroes came to his aid and together they were able to defeat the most terrible and powerful villain. But even that couldn't calm Nick down. He was very angry at them and asked whose idea it was. Spider-Man took a step forward and said it was him, but the rest of the team followed him. Nick saw that the team had become more cohesive and softened a little.